What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's episode, we're talking about the biggest surprises in Major League Baseball so far. We're only 3 weeks into a 162-game season, but there's a lot of surprising things that have gone on. All that and much more coming your way right now! Before we get into today's content, I just want to be sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel for this video and for many more. We go live every single day. We don't want you to miss a thing. So hit that red subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be notified every single day. Let's jump into what we got going on today. All right, Nick. Well, there's been a lot of surprising things that have happened in Major League Baseball this year, and we're only 3 weeks in. And a lot of this has come from the teams that we root for specifically, which made me think, let's take a look at what the rest of Major League Baseball looks like. And we saw some pretty interesting things, and I wanted to take a look and kind of deep dive into this a little bit. So why don't you tell us what most surprises you so far?
I'm going to start it off, obviously, with the New York Yankees. My team, a team that is hard to root for right now, but I got to stick by my guys. It's tough because you look at this roster and they're an absolute machine. They should be tearing it up. You see the Dodgers in first place leading the entire MLB. Why aren't the Yankees up there leading the American League? It doesn't make any sense. Somehow they're at the bottom of the league and they aren't finding their way back up. They've got a lot going on. They're injured currently. They're not hitting the ball. They're not pitching well. Everything is just not working out. And you could name a whole bunch of players that aren't performing up to where they should be. But I think as a whole, we need to start looking at this coaching staff, start looking at this front office and saying, hey, we don't have the guys there that need to get this team to where they should be. We need to get guys in here that are going to coach them up, that are going to get them to help reach the expectations that are set in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, I take a look at the New York Yankees and I take a look at some of their best players. Aaron Judge has not performed up to what he's supposed to. And I get that we're only 3 weeks in, right? But he should be tearing the cover off the ball, especially when it's cold, because that's when pitchers are not warm. They're missing their spots, and he should be able to capitalize on this, especially with that short porch and right. Aaron Judge should be taking full advantage of the early part of the season. And it seems like the only player in the batting lineup for the New York Yankees that's actually taking advantage is Gary Sanchez. And honestly, he's probably the worst defensive liability that this team has to offer. There's really not much else to say. Gary Sanchez leads the team in OPS, batting average, and on base percentage. There's really not anything else that this team is excelling at, or any other position for that matter. You take a look at who you have: DJ LeMahieu, you have Giancarlo Stanton. We went over Aaron Judge. Some of these names, Gleyber Torres, I mean, some of these names should really stick out to you and say, these guys need to be on base. They need to be scoring runs. They need to be providing the pitching staff with some help. And it's just not getting there. The pitching staff has not had the help that they need. And then when they are getting the help, it seems like the pitching staff just isn't there. It seems like the Yankees they can score runs, but they can't pitch, or they can't pitch, or they can pitch and they can't score runs. They never work in unison, and that's why they sit right now at the bottom of the American League at 6-11, and it's really tough, even as a Red Sox fan, to take a look at the New York Yankees and saying, this is definitely not the team that Yankees fans signed up for. I'm a huge Red Sox fan, have been my entire life, and I like the competitive nature of Red Sox Yankees. If the Yankees are terrible or the Red Sox are terrible at any point, I think it hurts not only the rivalry, but it hurts the sport of baseball as a whole.
I think that when you look at Aaron Boone, I think he's been hanging out with Adam Gase too much. Those 2 years that Adam Gase was in New York was a little too much for Aaron Boone. He rubbed off on him because you look at how they're performing on the field. You look at exactly what Gleyber Torres did a couple days ago, just quietly walking to first base when he has a potential to actually make it. Just the lack of confidence, the lack of urgency to do their job is very prevalent. It's very known right now, and that all falls on Aaron Boone. He needs to motivate his team, he needs to coach them up, he needs to make sure that they are in the prime position to get the job done, and he's not doing that. He's terrible at rotating pitchers in and out. He doesn't understand how to work the rotation in the batting lineup. There's so many issues that fall on him, and this is something that has been consistent for years now. This isn't something that's new. Aaron Boone has always had success in the regular season. And then when it comes to postseason baseball, he falls apart. Now it's coming into the regular season. I think it's time that Aaron Boone needs to be put on the hot seat, and it's time for the Yankees to start looking at who else is out there and possibly making a midseason move.
It's interesting because Yankees faithful is not used to the drought and championships that you guys are facing currently, as you haven't been to the World Series since 2009, and that was subsequently the last time that they won it. We're 12 years removed from that stint, and it's looking pretty bleak right now for Yankees fans. But I think a lot of this also has to do with the loss of Masahiro Tanaka. Tanaka not being in the United States, let alone with the Yankees, is a huge loss for this team, and one that even Garrett Cole can't simply replace. I think there's a lot more to this Yankees failure so far in the season than meets the eye, and I think that it starts, like you said, at the manager position and in that locker room. On the other side of things, though, we have the Boston Red Sox, who are a major surprise in and of themselves because they're not only leading the division, but they're leading the entire American League at 12-7. This is a very welcome surprise for me, at least, for the Boston Red Sox to be where they are. They are smacking the cover off of the baseball. We've seen Rafael Devers, we have seen JD Martinez, we have seen Alex Verdugo, who was part of that Mookie Betts trade. All of these guys have been absolutely on fire. Xander Bogaerts is starting to get hot. A lot of these big time batters that have left the Red Sox. No more Jackie Bradley Jr., no more Mookie Betts. All these guys are gone, and it seems like the young guys are starting to pick it up, and they're getting off to a really hot start. But the biggest surprise to me is the pitching staff for the Boston Red Sox. What they have been able to do, what they have been able to showcase so far is absolutely incredible. And I have to give a huge shout out to the new and former manager, Alex Cora, who is finally back with the Boston Red Sox after serving a 1-year suspension through Major League Baseball. He comes back to the Red Sox, and I think there is no coincidence that they win in 2018. They were competitive in 2019, and then in 2020, when Alex Cora is gone, they fell apart completely. He comes back, and they start off right where they were in 2018 and 2019. I think you have to look at Alex Cora and say he was the major piece that was missing from them last year, on top of a COVID-ridden season. And you say, listen, that you have to take a look at what this team has been built on, what and where Alex Cora has been, what he's learned from, and this team is ready to prove something.
Well, the good and bad is that there are 162 games in this season. And so for the Yankees, they still have plenty of time to improve. For the Red Sox, they have to maintain this momentum for the majority of the season. And if they want any shot at competing against other teams in the American League, they've got a lot of work ahead of them because they've got a big target on their back. Everybody knows that they've come to play, and they are no joke. So everybody's going to be bringing their A game when they're facing the Red Sox.
That's right. And you know what? It's a welcome sight, because I'd rather be the team leading the pack with a target on my back than one that has to chase that target from the backside. But I do want to talk about one more team in the American League, and that's the Oakland Athletics, who are a surprise team as well. They sit there at 12-7, tied with the Red Sox for the lead in the American League. And what they've been able to put on the baseball diamond is no joke. What I see from both Boston and from Oakland is a very sustainable pitching staff and a team that doesn't just hit long bombs, doesn't hit home runs every single pitch or every single outing, they're getting people on base, they're rotating runners around the base paths, and they are consistently working as a team. I think that is a huge, huge thing that we are lacking in today's game of baseball, because this is the day and age where if it's not a home run, most viewers just don't want to see it. Now, when you take a look at what's going on, you say, well, MLB viewing is up, and that's because these teams are actually starting to play better baseball. They are starting to play more in line with what they were supposed to be doing, moving runners from first to second to third, so on, and not just swinging for the fences or striking out. I think there's a major issue and a major gap in baseball philosophy when it comes to, should you just swing for the fences, or should you actually play the game, get on base, and try to rotate runners around the base paths?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that when you look at the Yankees, they're a team that's always swinging for the fences. When you look at the Red Sox and the Athletics, these are teams that look to get on base, to work the rotation and work the pitchers, make sure that they are working the defense as hard as they possibly can to wear them out. And I agree, that's the way you play baseball. That's how you win games. You can't just constantly rely on your big hitters to score all of your runs for you and say, we're going to win the game that way. You have to make sure all of your batters are going through the rotation and at least making contact. If they're not, they need to be taken out of the rotation. There's somebody else that you can bring in and replace them with that's going to do their job better. If not, you've got other problems to work on. But I think that's exactly why teams like the Yankees are struggling. They've got to fix their philosophy and how they're approaching the game.
Moving on to the National League and taking a look at some of these teams, the biggest surprise to me actually comes from the NL East, and it's just how bad these teams are. The New York Mets sit at 7-6 and lead the division. I just don't understand how the Mets, the Phillies, the Marlins, the Braves, and the Nationals are all so bad so early on in the season that none of them can really post a quote winning record to get ahead of the pack. The Mets are one game over 500. Phillies are 9-9. The Marlins are 8-9. The Braves are 8-10, and the Nationals are 7-9. So they're all within a game and a half of each other, but they're all around 500. These teams, the way they're built, you take a look at the Mets. When Steve Cohen bought this team, he built them and spent money. He brought in players that were going to help this team win, and they have just not done that. Bryce Harper has been an absolute no-show since he went to Philadelphia, and that has continued to happen. The Miami Marlins, they're a little ahead of where they usually are because they're usually at the back end of the NL East, and I take a look at where they are. Derek Jeter's starting to rebuild this team and really build out this roster, and he's moving away from the bigger names and trying to get a more team philosophy in there. The Braves and the Nationals, these are two teams that have been deep in the postseason in the last couple of years, and honestly, they're nowhere to be seen right now. I don't understand what exactly is going on, but the entire NL East to me is a massive surprise on how bad they really are.
Yeah, I think you've got it right on the money. I think that the NL East really has a lot of work ahead of them, but right now there are no contenders coming out of that division. Nobody that is really going to compete with the likes of the Dodgers right now. They're the team to beat in the NL, and right now nobody there is touching them.
That's right. And I take a look at some other surprises just to name a few, but the Milwaukee Brewers are standing at 11-7, leading the NL Central Division. The Dodgers are not a surprise, but they are 14-4. They have come out blazing hot. They obviously have the biggest target on their backs as defending World Series champions, but the rich only got richer in the offseason, and it's showing out on the baseball diamond this year. But the bigger surprise to me is the San Francisco Giants, who are keeping pace with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Giants sit there at 11-7. They're only 3 games behind the Dodgers, but being 3 games behind the Dodgers is not anything to scoff at, because the Dodgers are not going to keep up a 14-4, 778 winning percentage, right? They're not going to keep that up for the entire year. At least we don't think they're going to, but who the hell knows, right? The San Francisco Giants are a really incredible team, and what they've built in their pitching staff. I mean, just looking at their starting rotation was absolutely incredible to look at. And I like what the Giants have done. I like what the Brewers have done. I believe that they're going to continue on their paths of success. Those are my biggest surprises so far of 2021. But we're going to revisit this around the All Star break and check back in to see where everything has gone since then. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. Sorry, I didn't know if I said that loud enough. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.